Let's go. Alright. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of System Shock Radio. I, as always, am your host, Nigel, and if this is your first time watching System Shock Radio, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, the first topic is going to be the Royal Rumble. Yes, is that time of year, probably one of my favorite times of year. It is Rumble season. Of course, the Royal Rumble, probably one of my absolute favorite matches of all time for a variety of reasons. It's unpredictable most of the time. It's usually a lot of fun most of the time. And it seems like almost anything can happen in the Rumble. And we've seen returns, we've seen new stars emerge because of Rumble wins, and even though not all of them end up winning their title matches that they earn at Mania, it's still pretty cool to see. And this year, pretty much what I'm going to be doing in this episode is I'm going to be making some predictions and why, and also just talking about the Rumble in general, because I absolutely love the Royal Rumble. So, for those of you who don't know, like, Nigel, what's the Royal Rumble? So, basically, the rules are, it's 30 men and or women, because there is a women's Rumble that was introduced in 2018, and pretty much there's 30 men and or women. Numbers 1 and 2 start pretty much at the same time. I mean, it not pretty much. It exactly is at the same time. And then every 90 seconds, which sometimes they switch it to 60 seconds, and then sometimes it doesn't even end up being the interval it's supposed to be. Sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's a little shorter, or for dramatic purposes and stuff like that. But basically, 1 and 2 start things off, and then every 90 seconds, and they switch the wording to regularly scheduled intervals, pretty much because we figured out like it's not always the 90 seconds. But anyway, I digress. Every 90 seconds, a new superstar enters, and then they're in the match, and then it keeps going until we reach number 30. The only way to be eliminated is to go over the top rope, and then both feet have to hit the floor. That's a very important rule, and it was established as an important rule in the 1995 Royal Rumble when Shawn Michaels was thrown over the top, but only one of his feet touched the floor. Both feet did not hit the floor, or so they made that distinction. That's where it really came up at, that like both feet have to hit the floor. And so last man standing gets a guaranteed title match at WrestleMania. Now, for some reason, they keep saying it's in the main event of WrestleMania, but as we've seen with like some of the previous Rumbles, it doesn't even end up being in the main event of WrestleMania. So they pretty much just say get a title opportunity. Now, there is a couple occasions where the world title will be on the line, such as the 2016 Royal Rumble, where the WWE Championship was actually defended, and of course Roman Reigns, because he was Roman Reigns, pretty much Super Roman at the time, not the tribal chief that we all know and love today. He entered from number 1, but of course it was won by entrant number 30, Triple H. But the Rumble is a lot of fun. There's surprise returns, such as like Edge when he came back in 2020. And then there's of course eliminations, and some eliminations are surprising, and sometimes it's unpredictable who's gonna wind up winning. So when the winner does turn out, it's like, oh, okay, either you expected it or you didn't. Now, sometimes that's not a bad thing. For example, sometimes it is a bad thing. In the 2015 Rumble, everybody knew Roman Reigns was going to win that one, and we were pretty upset. But then on the flip side, in the 2020 Rumble, everybody knew Drew McIntyre was going to win, but it ended up being really awesome to see. So that's pretty much the gist of it. Who's going to make an appearance this year in the Rumble? It's hard to say. There's a couple names floating around. Of course, the Forbidden Door has been And so WWE is finally working with, well, I shouldn't say finally, they have worked with other promotions in the past, but it looks like they're working with, directly with Impact Wrestling, aka TNA, whichever you wish to call it. And so, because of that, Mickey James will be in the Royal Rumble match. Although Mickey James was part of WWE as well. Yeah. So, Mickey James is gonna be a part of the Rumble, and a lot of names have been floating around as to who's gonna appear in the men's and or women's Rumble. But who's actually gonna win it, and who's gonna either go from bell to bell, because that has happened sometimes. That happened last year when Edge came in at number one and then won the whole thing. But who I think is going to win the men's and women's Rumble. The men, I'm still undecided. It honestly, some people said they wanted Big E to win, which I could see happening. Or some people even said Braun Breaker from NXT could potentially win it, or even Walter from NXT, which it's a bit of a long shot, but hey, who knows? But for the women, I don't know. I feel like my instinct is telling me that Liv Morgan is gonna win the women's Rumble, so they can keep the feud with her and Becky Lynch going. But I'm not sure yet. Only one way to find out. January 29th is when this is taking place, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's going to be taking place on a Saturday, which I believe is actually the first Rumble event to take place on a Saturday. It seems like WWE is doing their pay-per-view events on Saturdays now, which does kind of suck for me because I'm going to end up missing it because I do have to work Saturday night. But I'll be able to catch it the next day. But yeah, so absolutely love the Royal Rumble match. But next up, we're going to move on to the Tron movie. Now, I watched the Tron movie a couple weeks ago on a Sunday. And actually, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look back and see. But the Tron movie. Now, I kind of talked about it over on my Instagram page, the _Nigelverse. Go follow that on Instagram. Basically, the Tron movie was it was okay. It wasn't the greatest movie I've seen in my entire life, but it was a pretty decent movie. But I think the main thing that stuck with me when it came to Tron were the visuals. Now, Tron came out in 1982, and but the visuals and everything, and a lot of the effects they had, even without the whole HD stuff that Disney Plus has, were really good. Like, the CGI was pretty good, like, for its time. Like, this is a movie where you could see it and you'd probably think it came out in like the 90s maybe, but not 1982, and it's pretty impressive visual wise. There are, of course, some practical effects, but a lot of the computer generated stuff does look really good as well. And what's the movie about? Basically, there's first of all, a lot of it, the bulk of the movie takes place inside the computer, so there's a lot of course computer technology puns and stuff. And basically, there's a program named Tron who has to interact with his user to stop the master control program who's taken over the computer. So Tron teams with his friend Ram and a user, or which is like human beings like us, who got trapped inside the computer, named Flynn, who created the game Space Paranoids, which was stolen from him. But they journey through, they stop the Master Control program and his minion, Sark, and they liberate the computer, or everybody happy. Hey, so it's a decent little fun adventure, but the visuals is really what sells it. And of course, there was another movie that came out several years later, Tron Legacy. Now, before watching Tron for the first time, I actually had not seen the 1982 Tron movie. However, I did see Tron Legacy when it came out in theaters several years ago, but it's been a long time since I seen it, so I do want to go back and watch it. Apparently it's not as good as the first movie, but sequels rarely are. And but playing Kingdom Hearts 2 like I did last year, one of the levels was, of course, Space Paranoids, which is based off the Tron movie. So to see a lot of those references and callbacks that they did for the Kingdom Hearts 2 game, seeing them, seeing pretty much their origin in the Tron movie, like, oh, that's what that means. It was pretty interesting to say the least. Tron, of course, ended up being a playable character that not playable character, but you could switch him off with in your party in Kingdom Hearts 2. So he was there. I'm surprised Ram wasn't there, but technically he does like die in the movie, but not really die. They say the term they use is de-res, like de-resolution. So that's pretty much their equivalent of like death. But Tron did, of course, make the game, which makes sense. He's kind of the main character. It's kind of Flynn. It's kind of the users, but also the Master Control Program as a villain was pretty interesting. How he's like pretty much gains sentience and like thinks for himself and tries to potentially overthrow the humans, and how he stopped and everything. So, decently fun little time. Of course, the visuals sell it. So, I would recommend checking it out. But next up, we're going to talk about The Last of Us, as the video game. So, a bit of backstory behind this. So, I actually bought The Last of Us when I first bought my PS4 back in 2018. You know, it wasn't the first game I bought for my PS4, but I bought it early on in the lifespan of my original PS4, and I played it back then, but I didn't finish it because my PS4 ended up getting a lot of data corrupted, so I had to wipe like the database and everything. So I ended up losing my save progress for The Last of Us, and that hurt. It did hurt. I lost the save for a lot of games when that happened, but Last of Us was one of them, and I always said I would go back and actually beat the game and like finish the game. Now, when I say like finish a game, I mean finish like the main story of it, not necessarily 100% it, which some people mean when they say like, you know, finish a game. But so I did end up finishing the game last year, actually. Pretty much close to the end of 2021 is when I finished The Last of Us. And I'm glad I did, because it ended up being a really good, fun game. So the premise is that there's an infection going around, a virus, which when it infects people, well, it can be infected by like biting people. So, it's kind of like a zombie sort of thing, but not really. It's kind of like pseudo zombies, which is the term I used when I talked about it over on my Instagram. But so it's like a pseudo type zombie or it's not really what you'd call a zombie, but they move around like zombies. They infect people the way zombies do with like the bites and stuff. But it's like a fungal infection, and it causes the person to pretty much lose their sanity and essentially become a zombie. So there's that outbreak, and we follow the main protagonist, Joel, as he has to smuggle a young girl named Ellie over to the Fireflies. Why? It's not made clear yet. All is known is that he and his partner Tess are getting paid for the job, but of course Tess dies early on in the game. I think within like the first hour of playing the game, if I'm not mistaken. But then Joel and Ellie have to travel all the way to where the Fireflies are. They of course have to fight off the infected, which come in different forms. There's runners, then there's clickers, and then there's bloaters as well. Also, there's 3 types of infected, and so they fight them off. They fight off like mercenaries as well. They even get separated for a time being, and but they're reunited, and we see how Joel and Ellie, of course, build that bond over time, I'm pretty much like a father-daughter sort of bond, of course, because Joel lost his own daughter, or she was shot and killed by a police officer around when the pretty much pandemic, or I think it's categorized as an epidemic in the game, like first started. So he lost her. He distanced himself from his brother Tommy, but they do end up reuniting. And when he gets to the Firefly Hospital, they reveal that they pretty much want to open Ellie's brain, and because she is bitten, she was bitten, and but for some reason she didn't become like a full-on infected like the clickers and the runners and the bloaters and stuff like that. It didn't really happen to her, so they think she's immune. So what they want to do is get the infection out of her brain so that they can manufacture a vaccine that will help out. But opening her brain will likely kill her. So Joel, of course, upon realizing this, pretty much does the responsible thing, and by killing everybody in the hospital and taking Ellie away, who is unconscious at this point, and he pretty much lies to her and tells her that the Fireflies gave up on finding a cure for the infection. Now, the Fireflies are like a group of people that aren't affiliated with government. They're kind of freelance, and they're almost kind of like a resistance movement. But Ellie is friends with one of them, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Joel's brother Tommy was also a Firefly for a little bit. But so that's how that happens. And overall, it's a pretty fun game. It's kind of on the short side, which it surprised me a little bit by like how short the game was. But it is kind of a short game. You're not gonna spend a whole lot of time. It's not like short and it's like bad, like, oh, I wish there was more, kind of like we got with Avengers when that came out. But it is kind of a short game, but it's still a pretty fun game, and the narrative throughout is still told even in that short time. But one of the big things about the game, well, first, before we address that, let's address like the gameplay and stuff. So the gameplay, it's a third-person shooter, but one of the unique aspects of it is the different survival tactics. So you need to craft different weapons. You can scavenge different things, and scavenging these things, doing all this, helps you fight off the infected and, of course, the mercenaries and stuff like that you have to fight. And all that have like gameplay elements and stuff really helps convey the sense of like survival, how you pretty much have to do what you can to survive and everything. But one of the big things about the game is, of course, the ending. Joel's decision to save Ellie and everything. Now, this sparked an argument as to whether or not Joel was justified in his in what he did, especially by the time The Last of Us 2 came out, and some of the stuff that happened with that. But it's debated whether or not Joel was right or wrong for what he did. Now, on one hand, some would say he was wrong because there's a chance to make the vaccine, and Joel decided to take kind of the selfish way out, keeping Ellie for himself, and pretty much causing all this like havoc and stuff. And so pretty much some would say he was selfish for doing that. He shouldn't have did that. He didn't want to sacrifice her or for the greater good. But on the other hand, and what they presented for us in the game pretty much shows that it probably wouldn't have been an easy decision. Like I said, they developed a father-daughter bond throughout the game. Imagine if you have a child and you were asked to sacrifice that child to save all these people. Now, that wouldn't be an easy decision to make. It, now, that is if you love your child and everything. There are some that don't, but nevertheless, there those who really do love and care for their child. Well, to then be told you have to sacrifice their child, it's not a decision you can make split second. Like whoa, wait a minute. You want to do what? It's gonna kill my child. Well, and yeah, it's gonna save a lot of people, but you probably be going back and forth as to like no way am I gonna let this happen. Like no way that it's gonna cause the death of my child. And that, I feel like, is kind of the headspace that Joel was in. And Naughty Dog, they kind of played off. They didn't really paint Joel as a hero. Nevertheless, they did leave it mostly up to interpretation. They pretty much presented us with his actions, and then from there, they kind of let us decide whether or not we believe that Joel was justified or not in what he did. So the narrative there, I feel like, really works in that aspect, and the fact that it's there as well was pretty cool. And of course, Naughty Dog's known for having some really good narrative elements in their stories. Of course, Naughty Dog are the same people behind like Crash Bandicoot or the Jack and Daxter games or the Uncharted games as well. So, the fact that they had this narrative in there and it told the story made it interesting to the point where in The Last of Us 2, which I'm not going to spoil right now, not just for you guys, but for myself because I haven't played it, but even though I kind of did spoil it for myself, but what happens in The Last of Us 2 really turned a lot of people off to the series because they felt so like upset over what happened. And but yeah, so that is The Last of Us. I'm glad I did get around to actually finishing it up. But anyway, on to our last topic, and that is look towards the future. So why is the future important? For starters, this is not to say that the past or the present aren't important. They say that those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, and that is very true. And of course, the present, living in this moment right now, because you're not going to get any other moments like that. But I also say that looking towards the future is important because it's important to see what your actions will do for you later on down the line, where things will end up later on down the line. And for some people, the future holds a sense of optimism. Some people are excited about what the future may hold, and some people may be a little scared, but the future, for some people, may seem bright, and some people believe that the future will justify their past, and that their reward is in the future for everything they go through in the past and right now. And that is true in a lot of regards. Sometimes what had happened to you in your past stays in the past, but it does shape your future. Now, that can be good or bad, but some people have the ability to turn those negatives into positives. And I believe that turning a negative past into a positive future is one of the best, one of the strongest things that a person can do. Not to let your past rule you, but use it to build a better future. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, drop a like, a reaction, all that good stuff. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter, or all that good stuff. And I will see you guys later. Peace.